Anyways, her dad says it's brilliant, and Jade finally acts like Tori is her friend, who has done something truly kind for her. It's too bad these characters are incapable of retaining memories. What follows is a sequence where each character recounts what happened, highlighting the unique narcissism present with each character, particularly highlighted in how Jade sees Tori and how Tori sees Jade. Tori tries to convince Andre that he doesn't want to date Jade by, dressing up like her, adapting a copy of her personality, and then role-playing with him. Speaking of ships, though, I actually want to rewind a second in retrospective here and talk about the weirdest scene in that episode, okay? And that is the scene where Tori dresses up like Jade in like a perfect imitation of her. Okay, can we just stop and acknowledge that's a little odd, right? Let me put it like this. Imagine you're in that situation and you have this friend, right? You have this friend and both of you have like a mutual friend that you both kind of dislike, right? But your friend specifically, the first friend, is infamous for hating the other person with a passion. And one day you go up to the first friend and you say, hey, I've got a problem. I think I've fallen in love with that person that we both hate. And then your friend goes, whoa, 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 hold on, I got this. And they run out of the room, and then they're gone for a bit, and then they walk into the room again, and they're wearing a perfect costume of the friend you both don't like. Like, down to having a wig that has, like, the right number of highlights, and, like, the highlights are down to the correct length of where they should be, and they got the perfect clothes on, then they have the makeup down, and they're like, okay, I'm gonna pretend I'm our mutual that we both don't like. You would be like, stop the train! What is going on? There is no heterosexual explanation for that scene. Jade comes over that night, and after Tori suspects that she's brought scissors with her, she searches Jade's body.
Don't be shy.
This fucking show, man. So as her gift to Tori, Jade says that she knows the perfect gift for Andre. However, she says that before she reveals it, she first wants Tori to beg. Once again, no heterosexual explanation for that. But plot-wise, what happens during the song? Cat mimes kissing Tori on the cheek, Tori passes it along to Jade, and Jade does this little feisty bite thing. It's just this nice, cute little story about how all these characters love each other, and how Tori and Jade are probably definitely gay. Jade enters the hall and discovers that Tori is still in a bad mood and threatens to tickle her.
No! Don't! I'm not in the mood! Uh-oh.
A tickle session then commences, and as they reset, Tori says that she just thinks April Fool's Day should be different, causing Jade to say that it's just the same and there's nothing she can do about it. Psychowitz forces Tori and Jade to meet up with him for dinner at the sushi restaurant from a few episodes ago. However, he secretly has ulterior motives. They can't play a couple in love, so they need to do some character acting. In other words, Psychowitz is ordering that Tori and Jade begin going out on dates.
To prepare for your roles, you two must date. So, have fun.
Hey, remember that game show that St. John made a while ago, Queries for Couples? This storyline is actually a subtle throwback to that, you see, because this entire show is query bait. Anyways, if Jade and Tori don't go out on dates, they will get an F for the entire semester. They are thus forced to stay in the sushi restaurant and have a good time as a couple until it closes at midnight. He has two spies, Sinjin and Burf, who will both take careful attention to see that they're following these instructions. I've thought about this a lot, and I think if you went to this high school in 2010 to 2013, and you followed all these people on social media, you'd probably just presume that Tori and Jade were hooking up the whole time. I mean, all the way back to season 1, Tori was always tweeting out weird shit like, Jade's dress is so warm, and this is the worst date I've ever been on. I'm on a date with Jade. So like, how else would you interpret that? Tori and Jade tried to think of nice things to say about each other to make the date go over more smoothly.
I guess some people might say that from certain angles, you're pretty. You could say I'm pretty.
You are pretty.
Two guys then walk up to the girls, deciding that they're going to hit on them despite the fact that they're on a date and are asking to be left alone. They do the play, and because of their character acting, they really do come across like they're in love on stage.
Then why can't we kiss?
Cause of Jade. Kissing your friend's ex-boyfriend?
Wait, when are you and Jade friends?
Tori says that even if Jade doesn't treat her well, she still thinks that they're kind of friends, and thus stealing an ex isn't something that she can do to a friend. Later on, as Jade dresses for the show, Tori decides to visit, and Jade decides that none of this is right. This is supposed to be Tori's night, and taking that away isn't something that she should have done to a friend. The audience and Tori are stunned to hear the word friend exit Jade's mouth before she hastily adds on,
Or even to you.
And so the two quickly orchestrate a conspiracy, and Tori goes out on stage instead of Jade, which is a performance that, according to the logic of the episode, is viewed by some curious things come to mind that actually raise some questions about Jade and Beck's relationship. Because based on all the evidence that we have gathered throughout the course of this saga, it seems to me that Jade has consistently been more willing to be emotionally vulnerable with Tori, a person that she hates, than Beck, the man that she loves. Think about it for a second. Has Jade ever broken down in a heated moment and explained the complex relationship that she has with her father to her boyfriend? Has Beck ever been a person that Jade feels comfortable crying in front of? I think these are reasonable questions to ask about their relationship, because on a surface level, it seems like Beck really doesn't understand Jade very much at all. And I think generally this is the most tragic thing about Jade, and it's also the thing that makes her perfect for fandom culture. Because virtually all of Jade's emotions get kind of filtered out into the same language and tone, it's possible to interpret her literally any way you want to. If Jade is incapable of showing love in a way that doesn't come across as hatred, then maybe her cruel obsession with Tori is something internalized. Maybe she has some kind of feelings that she doesn't want to have, but she secretly does. Okay, guys. Here we are. You've all felt it coming, and I'm gonna feel like such a freak for being so willing to die on this hill. Tori and Jade are endgame. Tori and Jade, man, Tori and Jade, the archetype of man's greatest trope. The characters who hate each other in the pilot episode, but should get married in the finale. Here's the thing about this ship. When I first started considering these two getting together, it was a joke, right? Like, I was watching season 2 and I just found myself thinking about the fact that these two characters are always thinking about each other, always talking about each other, always fighting, always starting an episode, and I was like, oh, haha, wouldn't it be funny if I, like, jokingly shipped these two? And then I watched season 3 and I went, oh. I cannot make it more clear that I am not joking when I say this. I think that Victorious invented queer baiting. It seems to me that season 3 was probably one of the first points in the show where they were writing new material with the knowledge of how the fanbase had responded to the season 1 stuff. And so there was probably this point where they were looking at, like, kind of the early Tumblr followings of Victorious, and they were like, oh, did you guys notice that in the Victorious fanbase, there's a lot of, like, non-straight ships? And then someone was like, oh, what if we start putting, like, explicitly gay material into our show? As a joke. Because you'll remember, like, famously, the writers didn't like doing ship episodes, so the idea of meticulously setting up a ship that they knew Nickelodeon would not let them do, that was probably hilarious to them. And I'm standing here thinking I must sound crazy for taking this stance, but, like, you guys have been watching this video, and you've probably noticed this too. After Jade and Beck break up, it feels like several episodes imply that Tori and Jade might be into each other. I mean, there's an entire episode where they date, and it's like one of the most popular episodes of the show. And here's my thing, okay? Here's why this is like my #1 Victorious ship of all time. If there actually is a Victorious reboot one day and they try and pull off a bunch of like ships, the majority of the ships that are on the board right now, if you make them a thing, you will retroactively make the original series make less sense. Like if Andre and Kat start dating, there's like a bunch of episodes in the original 4 seasons that now make less sense because you did that. But Tori and Jade is the only ship on this board where if you make that canon, the show retroactively makes more sense.
Don't be shy. You could say I'm pretty.
You are pretty.
Then why can't we kiss?
Cause of Jade.
And, you know, talking about this once again from the angle of, oh, we're making a Victorious reboot, you and me right now. The iCarly reboot, right? As an outsider who's only seen like a very small amount of material, one of the most disappointing elements of that reboot is that despite the fact that it was a weekly release, I heard about it the first week that a new episode came out, and then I literally never heard about it again. And it ran for I feel like 4 months, but it was like nothing happened in that show. So once you said the sentence, iCarly is back, it seems like no one had anything else to say about it. But can you imagine if the Victorious reboot comes out and it's like a weekly release and they maybe implied that like Tori and Beck are going to be a thing, and there's also this running theme of like Tori and Jade never had their final confrontation, their final battle, their final showdown to see who is the best, and then in the finale they just fuck? And just to be clear, I don't mean like an HBO sex scene, I mean like one of those tasteful, implied sitcom sex scenes, like that Brooklyn Nine-Nine shit, where they're like, that was really hot, I'm glad we got this blanket to cover our collarbones with now. But the point I'm trying to make is that if a Victorious reboot had a first season and it ended like that, the internet would explode and everyone would be talking about Victorious for like a month straight. And I think with a weekly online release, that should be what you're aiming for. Oh, I almost forgot the best part. His new show films in another city and he and Jade break up. Why, Victoria? Why? Like, I know I broke them up, but I had a reason. It's because I wanted gay.